So what the CDC says right now, as you mentioned correctly, the most important thing is everybody should wear a mask. We don't have enough data yet, and the CDC will be collecting this as to whether or not 2 masks are going to be better than 1 mask. But, if you use common sense and say, until we get the data, if a physical barrier with 1 mask works, it makes common sense that 2 layers or 3 layers, and you should have a double layer mask and 1 mask anyway. But if you want to put an extra mask on, there's nothing wrong with that.
There's nothing wrong with it, but there's no data to support it. But notice how he says not enough data. Last week he said no data. But now it's not enough because that leaves open the possibility that maybe there is some data, but he doesn't want to say. So now we're back to, you want a double mask, double mask. Why not triple mask, Fauci? People say, oh, that don't be silly. Oh, really? They're saying double mask now. And that was considered a silly point to bring up 6 months ago when people like me were saying, they're going to tell you that. You started to see people that had a mask and a visor on, the face shield plus a mask, maybe 2 masks and a face shield. And that totally normal behavior, right? I mean, we should all be expected to do these insane things. It's really troubling to see how much the American people have been willing to just be led like sheep around on this whole thing. Just ask the basic questions of people like Fauci. I love this because I keep bringing it up knowing that nobody has a good answer for me. So we're okay with Fauci lying to the public because he thinks that we can't be trusted with the truth, because that's what he did initially about masks. That's a public health official. He lies to you. So, if he had said, guys, don't get the vaccine right now, we're not sure it's safe, because they were running low on vaccine, would that be okay? How would you feel if, you had a loved one who was at high risk who waited on the vaccine because Fauci lied because he didn't want us to run out? That's what he did on masks. That is exactly what he did on masks, but no accountability for that whatsoever. Like I said, don't ever forget that lockdowns failed, that Fauci is a feckless bureaucrat. And if you go to bucksexton.com right now, the main story there is an editorial I've written where it's quick, it's to the point, just says, look at the main argument. Look at the data here. And the data tells a very clear story. They failed. We went through all this misery and all this stuff, all these lockdowns and businesses closed and millions and millions of people's lives ruined. And for what? For what? Oh, well, they say it would have been worse. Yeah. Take a look at those numbers in January and December for places like California. California's been under a mask mandate for 6, 7, 8 months at that point. And where was the slowing of the spread that was supposed to? It was like wildfire all over California. But, worked really well. That's what they'll tell you. Worked really well. Okay, fine. And we know that's not true. And here's the other problem. And this is the part of it that I get into this at bucksexton.com in the editorial, is that they're going to drag this misery out as long as they can. No matter how many people get vaccinated and how low hospitalizations fall, there's a large segment of the Fauci worshipers that are going to demand masking and social distancing for the rest of 2021, at least, just to be safe. Just to be safe. And as we all know, that zero risk tolerance is completely insane for society to have, but that's what we're being forced into. And if you're wondering why I'm so confident that we're going to have to start to come together and put pressure on politicians in different states to say, you can't keep locking people away from each other because a small percentage of the population, even with vaccines out there and everything else, is still going to be at risk. You can't do it. It's not right. All right. This is the conversation. This is the adult conversation we should have been having from the beginning, but we weren't willing to. There are people saying, you just want grandma and grandpa to die. All the demagoguery and stupidity and the incentives for creating a mass panic in the country because Donald Trump was president and they wanted to beat Donald Trump. If you make everybody miserable and terrified, It's a lot easier to convince them that they should do anything, they should support anyone other than whomever's in power at that point in time. And it worked. And it worked. But how do I know they're going to continue to extend this? Well, here's Fauci telling you that even the vaccine, even previous infection may not protect you against these new, the South African variant. Play 12.
Well, the variants, for example, particularly the South African variants, is obviously here. We know that there have been a couple of cases in South Carolina and one in Maryland. It is certainly not the dominant strain, but if it becomes dominant, the experience of our colleagues in South Africa indicate that even if you've been infected with the original virus, that there is a very high rate of reinfection to the point where previous infection does not seem to protect you against reinfection, at least with the South African variant.
So if there are variants of COVID for which naturally derived immunity from your immune system beating it, you have no immunity going forward against, which is what he's suggesting here. What does that mean for the actual vaccines? Anybody want to take a guess? We either take our lives back or we let Fauci run the rest of your existence. That's what we're going to be faced with at some point. We either say enough is enough. We deal with the flu every year. We deal with, life is imperfect. There are risks. It's the way it is. At some point, we're going to get there. Or we have Fauci, every 3 to 6 months on TV, we got another variant. Could be, I think we're going to have to do more mitigation and more measures, and we don't have vaccine for everyone. And this is where it's all heading. This is what we've been seeing all along. That they keep moving the goalposts. They keep adding in the possibility. Oh, there's a possibility of something bad happening. And so therefore we all have to act like we must listen again to the great Fauci and the rest of the people around him. The disciples of Fauci, as I call them, who will listen to this guy no matter what he says. I mean, if Fauci said, protect yourself with a plastic bag over your head and tie it real tight, it might be hard to breathe, but it will stop. It's an impermeable barrier that'll stop vibration. A lot of people start putting plastic bags over their head, which is dangerous. Don't do that. But, this is what people are going to do. If Dr. Fauci says it, we have a society now where there's so much mass hysteria and just honestly so much institutionalized fear and unwillingness to think for oneself and to come to basic conclusions about what you're seeing around you. And it's amazing to me, all these hyper anxious people. Oh my gosh, I saw somebody without a mask for a second. I'm so scared. What is wrong with them? Well, there's a lot of answers to that question. We've created this perception society that, if only we listen to the experts, we're all going to die. Some of us understand that. Some of us have been in situations where we've thought before, I might actually die being here or dealing with this. Some of you listening have certainly been there, whether it's from illness or being in combat or being in a car crash or whatever it may be. You've experienced that thought of, I might actually die here. And we understand that you go through every day with a possibility that it could be your last. But time is one thing you'll never get back. And I just wonder, how much of your life are you willing to spend in misery and isolation and separation from your fellow human beings because of the Faucis of the world? And for those of you who are saying, oh, Buck, it's not that bad in my neighborhood. Yeah? You want to try to do some international travel these days? Want to go, visit whatever country your ancestors are from? Good luck with that. There are all kinds of restrictions in place. And you don't think the Biden administration is coming up with more stuff that they want to do? More reasons for you to have to obey? They're moving on climate change stuff. They're acting like there's a climate emergency right now. They haven't even gotten checks. They haven't gotten a stimulus passed. They haven't done the things they've said they will do for the American people. None of that's happened, but they're worried about climate change. Oh, okay. So we could look at that and understand that these people are, I can't say that they're intellectually unserious, but as authoritarians, they're very serious about this. They have all kinds of ways that we have to understand they will continue to inflict themselves upon us. And finally, I think, though, now, because the results are in, and I keep pointing out the Florida, New York, California comparison, because the results are in, people who are open-minded and do think for themselves are going to realize they're on very firm ground to say the Fauciites are jackasses. They were wrong, and we got to stop listening to them. They have to stop being in charge of everyone.
Hey, Team Buck, thank you so much for watching The First on YouTube. If you like this video, please click that little thumbs up button so then it will log as liked. And also, if you want to see more great content from The First, please click subscribe.